When I set out to make this series, I had a rough idea of when it would come to an end. Eventually, there would be no more dungeons to find and explore. That day came when I released the Dungeon Below Ul'dah episode. 1.0 ended in 2012, and we had found every single unused dungeon that there was. The project was complete, Secrets of a Realm was over. But late summer this year, while revisiting Soar in the Patreon-exclusive show Return to Soar, where I revisited dungeons previously covered in this series, I stumbled across an unexplored cave opening in Coerthas. North of Camp Riversmeet in the Western Highlands is the area called Wyrmking's Perch, and in the far northwest of that region is the opening that I noted down as unknown in my notebook and somehow forgot to investigate, likely distracted by the dungeon the Eyrie found a little further up west near the lands. What could possibly be inside? Welcome back to Secrets of a Realm, Wyrmking's Rest. The entrance of Wyrmking's Rest looks similar to pretty much every Coerthas dungeon in the game, a somewhat easy-to-miss gap in the mountainside with no lights or other indications that a dungeon hides inside. As I enter the dungeon, I am hit with a wave of nostalgia. It has been a while since I went on a Soar expedition like this, and honestly, I didn't expect to ever do it again. The entrance follows the standard recipe for a Coerthan dungeon, a long tunnel ending at the invisible wall, the barrier between the overworld and the dungeon. I pass the invisible wall. We are now inside the dungeon proper. And to no one's surprise, the descent continues. The path twists and turns as we delve deeper and deeper into the dark grey dungeon, seeming to go on forever. The descent comes to an end, and to my surprise, there is no option to go left or right. Instead, I am led into a large Hold on. What? That's not possible. The large rock we found in our Eyrie expedition seems to be right in front of me. I approach and I begin to recognize the shape of the room. This is the same asset. Did I somehow just stumble into the Eyrie? This was the exact thing I was thinking when I first entered this dungeon during the Return to Soar stream. When I went through the Eyrie back in the day, I just kind of stumbled upon that room while trying to find the exit. So before I started working on this video, I had to go on another expedition. I had to ensure that the Eyrie does not cross into the region of Wyrmking's Perch. It took a few hours, but I can now confidently confirm that the Eyrie goes in a southwestern direction, while the dungeon we're in right now, Wyrmking's Rest, goes in a northwestern direction. The dungeons are not connected. Observing the rock, I also noticed that, unlike the Eyrie, there are no birds circling this rock. The path I entered from is also directly tied to the entrance of the dungeon, which the Eyrie rock was definitely not. So with that in mind, we can safely continue the expedition. I pick one of the many tunnels and head off. While walking through the tunnel, everything seemed fine, but all of a sudden, the world began to glitch out. The map unloads and reveals other parts of the dungeon. When this first occurred, I walked straight ahead, and I glitched back into another part of the dungeon I couldn't easily get out of for some reason. When I finally found my way back, I assumed the glitch was somehow server-related, but I walked across the same spot, and the map once again disappeared and would not come back. I noticed these bushes floating in the air to the side, so I decided to follow them. Even after reaching these bushes, the map would not load in, but hitting a certain spot nearby, the map loaded back in, but only while I stood just there. So I took note of the path ahead and followed it while the map unloaded. Eventually the map loaded back in and I could continue my expedition. Very strange, and a first for Soar. Probably the most unfinished map in the game. This glitching would now happen regularly and making the expedition very difficult. I enter what looks like a small boss room with a door at the end of it. Thank the 12. It seems to be a linear path. But I spoke too soon. Right after exiting the room, I am faced with a choice between left and right. The right path seems to head up, and the left looks like it heads down. I pick the left path and descend deeper. While heading down, I realize that despite having the Eyrie monument in it, I have yet to see any man-made objects, doors, braziers. In the Eyrie, we were faced with one of those round doors with lit braziers at the very beginning of the dungeon, and would continue to come across bridges and doors throughout the dungeon, even boxes, crates. But so far, there's been nothing like that here. The descent finally ends, and we enter another large hub room. This looks like one of those large rooms seen in both Henger's Crucible and the Eyrie. Not unusual in a Coerthan dungeon for sure, but so far I have yet to see anything truly unique here. One major difference from the Eyrie's large rooms is that there are no bridges, no boxes or lights like I mentioned, anywhere. It's almost like we're seeing the undecorated assets used in the other dungeons. It's a little unsettling. There's this one rock thing near the center of the room that seems to have light painted on it, but there's no light source anywhere that could shine on it. Very odd. Despite being generally unimpressive, the room is huge, as is now expected from a Coerthan dungeon. I continue through another tunnel entrance. As I follow the path, passing a few empty rooms, the path begins to head up for a little bit, and after another few minutes, I find myself back in the room with the big green rock. Interesting. Maybe all paths in this dungeon eventually leads back to this room? I chose to go back the way I came, and the previous large room we found. Picking another tunnel entrance, I end up walking for a while until I finally reach something interesting. A door. A round-type door with braziers on both sides, but unlike the Eyrie, these are not lit. The door is also stuck open, and I can already tell that there's something going on inside. Let's take a look.
It is a room containing what I assume is a hatched dragon egg.
It's cool to find more signs of dragon lore in the game, as in 1.0 we never really got to explore that part of Coerthas' story. The egg in the center seems to have been the main focus of the room. Maybe this is where the boss would spawn. The room itself is quite small, with only a few other hatched eggs, and since there's no lighting, it all looks very dull and abandoned. That was until I looked up. In the ceiling, there's a small shaft letting in a tiny bit of daylight, positioned right above the big egg in the middle of the room. This was indeed a very important egg. Was this where the Wyrmking was born? As I look further, I notice that there's another opening on the other side of the room, with no door. How exciting! Can this possibly have been the exit, connecting to more tunnels and rooms? Well, no. It's just an empty room. Still interesting, though. So the entrance door is the only door I've encountered so far, and it leads to a hatchery. Hopefully we'll find more hints about what function this dungeon had, or maybe even some semblance of a story. I eventually end up back in the green rock room, and since there are no more tunnels in the large hub room, I look for another tunnel in this one. I begin a long journey through tunnels that go up, down, and around the whole place, but it all looks the same. Gray, empty, cramped. Every now and then I walk into a boss arena, like this one, which is neat, but I've seen it before. Where are the doors? Why is this dungeon so barren? I am also constantly battling with the dungeon itself. It would sometimes glitch out of existence for so long that I lost track of where I was. It almost felt like the dungeon was fighting me. This was a secret it did not want me to find. It becomes clear that the dungeon has a very strict looped layout. All tunnels eventually loop back to either the Green Rock Room or the large hub room, which in turn always loops back to the Green Rock Room. As I loop back to the Green Rock Room for the 10th time, I notice that there is a lower level. What if the secret of the dungeon is down there? I make my way down and enter a tunnel in the far end of the room. I enter another series of never-ending tunnels and rooms. Lots of dead ends with a few glitches along the way. Eventually, I pop back out into the Green Rock Room, and I begin to suspect that this is all there is. A relatively small dungeon with tunnels that eventually all loop back to the starting area. As I move around in the Green Rock Room, however, I notice something in the corner of my eye. Are those the birds? Oh, that's right. The birds are actually there. So the birds are a part of the rock asset then, just like in the Eyrie. They even have that special sound effect. Good to know, I guess. I eventually pick the last path I could possibly pick and head towards what I expect will be another generic dead end. As I walk down this path, my mind once again wanders. Who made this dungeon? What was their idea? Was there any idea behind it? What kind of monsters were they planning on placing here, and what would the story be? It's likely this dungeon wasn't planned out too much, but someone did make it. Someone placed these assets in this way to create the labyrinth that it is. Someone decided that the Green Rock Room would be the main hub, with every other path always either ending in a dead end or looping back to the Green Rock. So someone must have had a vision here. A vision we are only able to get a glimpse of. A vision only they had. At least, that's what I like to tell myself. Whoever created this dungeon had one final surprise for me, though. As I reach the end of the path, I see it. Another door. And this one is closed. And would you look at that? It has that symbol we found on the floor in the Eyrie in the middle. We are looking at a door placed there on purpose in the closed position. How would we open it? Would there be a certain NM that had to be killed? A special leave quest active? Certain weather conditions? Lighting the braziers? Nothing? Whatever it was, I was about to step through a door that never got to open while the game was active. What awaits me inside? After hours of nothing, I am terrified of this just being a door with nothing behind it. I pass through and... oh my gods. Finally. A massive room opens up in front of me, filled with hatched eggs and these string things all over the place. It looks like a slightly reconfigured version of the Crucible room from Henger's Crucible, with the dragon eggs scattered about. Because we've walked through a door, we've definitely found one of the landmark rooms, likely intended to be an NM or a boss room. The room is massive, with a large elevated section at the very end, similar to the one we found in Henger's Crucible, but without the large hatched egg. Remembering the light shaft from the previous egg room, I look up and I am amazed to find all these light shafts of varying sizes in the ceiling. It's about as beautiful as it can get in an unfinished Coerthan dungeon. I notice a large hole in the ceiling as well. Could this be where the hatchlings would fly out after escaping their eggs? Possibly. And just to make sure, I jumped up to see where it led, but as expected, it didn't lead anywhere. But it's a cool detail nonetheless. Maybe a cutscene was meant to play here, where instead of something leaving through that hole, something came in, triggering a boss fight. Who knows? This room connects to another empty room, likely meant to contain loot or more mobs, like the room we found in the smaller hatchery earlier in the expedition. What a cool room. Definitely meant to be the final boss room of this dungeon, the centerpiece, if you will. With that, I turn around and exit the room. I have seen everything this dungeon has to offer. I return to the main hub, looking up at the giant green rock, the birds circling above, and I'm filled with a strange calm. I have unlocked 1.0's final secret. I have completed my mission here. This dungeon may not have been the most incredible of the bunch, I give that award to the Bloodshore Hollow, but it was still someone's design. Work was done on this, as with all the other dungeons, even if it was never completed, and we have uncovered it again to be forever immortalized, at least as long as we have YouTube. This likely marks the end of our journey through the secrets of 1.0. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm sure there's no more... What's that? A Realm Reborn has lost content? We may meet in this series again, Eorzeans. Until then, may you ever walk in the light of the crystal.